and endocannabinoids or the oil is great.
And no, that is basic reality, supported by these thousands of articles I show you that I have. There are exceptions to every rule, but when you look closely at what the exceptions are, you see there's explanations and that the general concept holds true. All right. So essentially, cannabis, it supplements your endocannabinoid system. We all suffer from a common imbalance because we're all getting older. We're all accumulating the damage, the biochemical inefficiencies generated by free radicals basically screwing up the efficiency of things. And our endocannabinoid system, along with other things, is trying to help compensate for that. But since it's involved with everything in your body, it's a very significant factor. Think about something that regulates, on one hand, what's going on in your cells, but on the other hand, regulates your consciousness.
Right.
That's what's so unique about the cannabinoid system, is that it transcends scales like that, from subcellular on up to individuals, but because of its impact on consciousness, we're also having an impact on how individuals interact with other individuals and how our society forms. So that's a whole other story. If you want to hear that, we can go into that.
I would like that. I think that
I know you have questions, and I'd like to always kind of give a background, because a lot of times your questions will maybe be modified by understanding more of where I'm coming from and why.
Well, pretty much everything that I had planned for this article got thrown in the shitter because of the gentleman at the DEA not being willing to speak on some of the questions that I've developed. So right now, honestly, I don't really have an idea of where this is taking, but where the story is going. But I'm a recent graduate from the English department here, and I think I'm a decent writer. I think I can probably get something decent. And what I want is, obviously the gentleman in the DEA is very cognizant of their mission and the legal ramifications, the risks to liberty and to individual health that drug use entails.
But see, that's the point. They're not, because cannabis use is good for you.
Okay.
Unless you are one of that 5 or 10% of losers, basically, that they depict in the White House ads, where you show the stoner students sitting there doing nothing on the couch. That's not most people.
What's if that's the worst case scenario? If it's some guy eating too many munchies and zoning out with video games and a bong hit, I mean, who is that hurting?
Well, that brings up the other issue. You have to balance things. Is that more or less harmful to the individual than arresting him?
Right.
Denying him student loans, etc.
Right. Then let's take that to the next level and say, sociologically, what effect does incarcerating people, nonviolent, sometimes first-time nonviolent drug offenders, who receive these ridiculous sentences thanks to draconian things like mandatory minimums and I don't know. I mean, obviously, I have my opinions about how idiotic our national drug policy is. But what I want to try to write is something fairly objective, because I know some of the other pieces in this article are definitely going to be a little more freewheeling. So I'm speaking to you because you're not some crackpot guy in, say, Manitou Springs, or somebody cooking meth in Trinidad, although that'd be a great perspective. You've got years of research and data to back up what you believe to be true.
Based on not my inner beliefs, other than as they are formed by peer-reviewed science, which is our attempt to gather, quote, the truth about things. It's something that we refine as we learn more and more. It's rare that something gets put to bed scientifically. When you're on the interface of unfolding knowledge, there's always questions and debates, and you kind of move forward, and you establish a foundation that seems to be real. And that's what I base all of my cannabis-based thinking on.
So
essentially, cannabis is an anti-aging drug.
Okay. say that basically it's not harmful. What about the smoking element of it?
I've written a paper that was very popular all around the world on the difference between tobacco smoke and cannabis smoke. What's been demonstrated now is not just, what I did was I compiled existing data. This was back in 2005. But now there's even more data that verifies my suppositions at that time. Number one is that cannabis smoke does not cause lung cancer. Tobacco smoke does. The difference is the pharmacology of the compounds in tobacco versus the compounds in cannabis. Cannabis directly has anti-cancer activity. It kills a variety of cancer cells, including lymphoma, leukemia, skin cancer, melanoma, breast cancer, prostate cancer, glioma, brain cancer, in a variety of experimental situations. Some of these things are starting to be now examined in human clinical trials. You always start with animals and tissue culture experiments where you don't have to do horrible things to people like get them stoned.
Right.
So the science is exploding, and anti-cancer properties of cannabis are very, very profound. Not only does it directly kill cancer cells, but significant strong evidence shows that it should inhibit metastasis, the spreading of the cancer, by a variety of biochemical means that are inhibited by the cannabinoid system. So, it's kind of a no-brainer here that somebody who has cancer, they're typically depressed. Well, cannabis is an antidepressant when taken in the right doses. Too much is not good, too little is not enough. There's a right dose, all right? Which you can find for yourself because it's a non-toxic compound. You take too much one time, you take too little, you'll learn. Nobody wants to get too high. That's a general rule for pot, all right? You like to get high enough that you're feeling good. You don't want to feel bad. You take too much, you'll feel bad. Yeah, in general, it relieves anxiety. It promotes sleeping. It's a pain reliever for chronic pain, especially. It does all the things that you need if you're if you're a cancer patient. What the government touts as the anti-nausea properties. Well, that's insignificant essentially compared to the fact that it's killing cancer cells.
Right.
And that's neuroprotective, and cardioprotective. So a lot of times when you're getting a variety of treatments like X-rays or a variety of chemotherapeutic agents that can damage the heart, the cannabinoids protect against that. So everywhere you look, you put the story together and it says, hey, everybody should be using cannabis regardless of what treatments you're using. This is probably going to be good for you on a variety of levels.
Now, when you say using cannabis, are there benefits to, say, ingesting the raw plant?
Yeah, actually, some of the doctors in California now are just feeding their patients leaves.
Really?
Depending on, because you see, the plant has so many different compounds in it that are bioactive. We have about 65 different cannabinoid compounds, some of which get you high, some of which don't, but they have some structural relationships, all right, so that classify them as cannabinoids. Then you have a variety of other compounds, flavonoids, terpenoids, which cannabinoids are a subset of, that have a lot of biological properties in terms of pain, depression, immune modulation. So if you look at things like autoimmune diseases, they also have in general a common characteristic in that the immune system is acting in a overly pro-inflammatory mode in whatever area of your body is coming up with this autoimmune disease. So it could be arthritis, it could be diabetes, it could be Crohn's disease, it could be multiple sclerosis, it could be ALS, lupus. All of these diseases, even though they are impacting the body in slightly different ways, they have a common underlying imbalance, and that is pro-inflammatory. A pro-inflammatory imbalance, and the way your body naturally balances that imbalance is with your endocannabinoid system turning on anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay.
So if your body has been selected to use that process, isn't it kind of a no-brainer that we should try that? The way our existing laws are, even though we have legal medical marijuana in this state, and I'm a legal medical patient, it's like the last resort. That's backwards. It should be the first resort.
They'd rather give you a synthetic variant like Marinol or something?
Well, even that is very limitedly used, and it costs $1,500 a month. They'd rather you use pharmaceuticals that the pharmaceutical company has spent a fortune to develop, and in some cases they work great, but typically they are associated with a horrendous array of negative side effects. Read